Medieval life. Medieval life. Weakening of central government made a new political system known as feudalism formed in Western Europe. Feudalism is a highly decentralized form of government that stresses alliances of mutual protection between monarchs and nobles of varying degrees of power. Mainly held in northern France around AD 900 and spread through the rest of Western Europe by the AD mid-1000s. Feudal relationships, Part 1. In AD 700s, Charles Martel was fighting the Muslims. The Muslims used saddles with stirrups that enabled them to fight on horseback using a sword or lance. That's a sword and that's a saddle. Charles wanted to adopt this, however, the cost of keeping this force would require a new military system. To do this, Martel began granting warriors fiefs or estates within peasants. From the fiefs, warriors got the income to buy horses and battle equipment. Feudal relationships, Part 2. By the AD 900s, such arrangements among nobles and monarchs emerged as feudalism. Lords who had been granted fiefs were allowed to pass their lands on to their heirs. In return, these nobles were to provide knights or mounted warriors for the royal army. These blue arrows represent military service, showing that knights gave military service to vassals and so on, and the kings granted fiefs to nobles, and the nobles granted fiefs to vassals, and yes. Feudal obligations. Ties between a lord and a vassal were made official in a solemn ceremony known as homage. In return for a fief, a vassal pledged to perform certain duties or military service. The vassal agreed to provide his lord with a certain number of knights for battle during a period of 40 to 60 days each year. Also, he would provide food and lodging when the lord came visiting, and to contribute funds when his oldest son became a knight or oldest daughter became married. And this is a picture of a knight granting money, military service, and food to his king.
Castles for defense. Every noble had a castle for themselves. In AD 1100s, castles were starting to be made from stone. Since a lack of strong central government and a warfare, they made castles. Castles were surrounded by deep moats, and this picture of the castle expresses how they would defend themselves with cannons. Lords. A lord is also known as a nobleman. He had almost all authority of his fief. They collected rents from the peasants. They settled dispute between his vassals. Lady, known as a noblewoman, her father would select a husband for her as early as the age of 12 years old. They took care of needlework, medicines, and sometimes took care of the estate. Her main duty was to raise the children and kept the household clean. Entertainment. Nobles looked forward to tournaments. They had mock battles between knights. They loved to hunt, and men and women did falconry and archery. Nobles were entertained by minstrels and singers.
Life in the castle. The medieval castle was both a castle and a home. They went from 4 wooden towers to barracks, then they became stone. Archers shot intruders from the towers while soldiers dumped boiling liquids on attackers. The castles were surrounded by a moat, which a drawbridge crossed. The castle constantly smelled of animal and human waste. It was mainly used as a military base. This picture is a castle and people dropping liquids on other people and archers and such.
Becoming a knight. A nobleman's son starts to train as a knight at age 7. First, they are pages or assistants. When they were turned 15, they become squires. After that, once they prove themselves in battle, they become knights at a ceremony. The knights come to learn chivalry, which is a code of the knights have to follow. Be brave in battle, fight fairly, keep promises, defend church, and respect the royal woman.
manorial system, a new form of government that provides all people with food, shelter, and protection. Work on a manor. In return for the Lord's protection, the peasants did many things for the Lord. The chief farmed his land and gave him various goods. Every time a peasant collected grain at his mill, they had to leave some for him. If they baked bread in the Lord's oven, they had to leave a loaf for him. The peasants did many things/jobs. They herded sheep. They were artisans, blacksmiths, carpenters, shoemakers, millers, vintners, and brewers. Most peasants were serfs, people who were bound to the manor and could not leave it without permission. Increased production. The manors only produced enough food for the peasants and the Lord. A plow was created to farm, which meant less time in the fields for the peasants and farmers.